Sometimes life doesn't fall apart because you did something wrong. It falls apart because it's time for a rebuild. You can't pour new purpose into an old pattern. You can't expect transformation when you're still attached to what was only meant to teach you. The breaking wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And I know that sounds easy to say when you're standing on the other side of the storm. But when you're in the middle of it, when the pieces are scattered, when your confidence has cracked and your faith feels fragile, it doesn't feel like a beginning, and it feels like the end of everything you thought you were. But maybe that's the point. Maybe God had to let some things fall so he could show you what could rise from it. Because if you had never lost what you thought you couldn't live without, you would have never discovered what you were truly made of. Sometimes the blessing doesn't come wrapped in beauty. It comes wrapped in breaking. And it hurts when what you prayed for doesn't last. When the people you counted on walk away, when the version of yourself you built your identity around starts to crumble. But the breaking is proof that your spirit is evolving, that your soul is demanding more than comfort. It's calling for change. See, we often want the miracle without the mess. We want the growth without the grind. We want the power without the process. But you can't be unstoppable without first being broken enough to see what needed to be rebuilt. The breaking exposes the weak spots. It reveals where your foundation wasn't as strong as you thought it was. It forces you to see the areas where you've been pretending to be whole, but silently bleeding inside. There's something holy about hitting the bottom, because when everything familiar is stripped away, you stop performing. You stop hiding behind strength that's really survival. You stop pretending you're okay, and in that raw, undone space, that's where rewiring begins. That's where you finally start to understand that strength isn't about holding everything together. It's about trusting that even when everything falls apart, you're still becoming. Sometimes God allows a shake up to wake you up. You've been running on old programming, thoughts that tell you you're not enough, habits that keep you stuck, fear that whispers you'll fail again. But the breaking interrupts the cycle. It stops the noise long enough for you to hear the whisper of truth. You are still here. You still matter. And there is more ahead. You can't rebuild if you're still blaming the breaking. You have to look at your pain and say, I see what you came to teach me. You have to take what shattered you and use it as material for your next chapter. Maybe the heartbreak showed you how to love yourself. Maybe the disappointment taught you patience. Maybe the loss carved out room for something greater to grow. Nothing is wasted when you decide to heal. When I say the breaking was the beginning, I mean it's the place where you stopped pretending and started becoming. It's where the illusion of control faded and faith took the wheel. It's where you stopped settling for what was safe and started reaching for what was meant for you. You might still feel the ache of what you lost, but don't confuse pain with punishment. Pain is a sign of birth. Something new is pushing its way through. You were never meant to stay shattered. You were meant to rise different, stronger, wiser, more aware. Sometimes the only way to meet your new self is through the version of you that broke. Don't despise your breaking. Honor it, because it's the moment you stop being who life forced you to be and started becoming who you were created to be. So if you're standing in the middle of your breaking right now, if everything feels uncertain, if you don't recognize your life anymore, breathe. This is not your ending. It's your initiation. The pain is proof that transformation is in motion. You are not losing yourself. You are rediscovering the parts that were buried under survival. There will come a moment when you look back and realize the thing that almost broke you came the very reason you learned how to fly. You'll thank the fire because it burned away everything that wasn't meant to go with you. And you'll stand there, not with bitterness, but with clarity, realizing that the breaking didn't destroy you. It introduced you to your power, because the breaking was never the end of your story. It was the beginning of your becoming. You can't rewire what you refuse to confront. You can't step into a new season while holding hands with the lies that kept you bound in the last one. Somewhere along the way, life taught you to believe things about yourself that were never true. Maybe it was the voice of a parent who couldn't see your worth, a friend who betrayed your trust, a failure that made you doubt your ability, or a season that convinced you you're always going to come up short. And now, without even realizing it, you've been living inside those lies, decorating them, defending them, and calling them reality. But the truth is, they've been holding you hostage from the life you were created to live. When you tell yourself, I'm not enough, you start shrinking in rooms you were meant to lead. When you whisper, I always mess things up, you stop trying before you even start. When you believe, I'll never be loved the way I deserve, you settle for connections that keep breaking your heart. These aren't just thoughts, they're codes. They're the quiet scripts running in the background, shaping every choice, every relationship, every dream. And as long as you let those lies sit unchallenged, your life will reflect the limits they've placed on you. You have to be willing to confront the noise that plays on repeat in your mind. You have to ask, who told me that? Because most of the time, the voice you call truth is just the echo of someone else's insecurity that you accepted as your own. Somewhere deep inside, you started believing that rejection meant you were unworthy. That being overlooked meant you were invisible. That failure meant you were disqualified. But those are not facts. They're fractures. And fractures can be healed when they're exposed to light. It's time to delete the lies and download the truth. You are not what happened to you. You are not the worst thing you've ever done. You are not the sum of your disappointments. You are the lesson, the growth, the resilience that rose from them. Every time you chose to get up, when life knocked you down, you rewrote a little piece of your story. Every time you forgave, when it would have been easier to stay bitter, you shifted your identity toward freedom. Every time you believed there was more for you, even when you couldn't see it, you planted a seed of transformation. But transformation takes honesty. It takes courage to say, this version of me isn't working anymore. It takes strength to face the mirror, admit that you've been repeating patterns that no longer serve you. It's not easy to unlearn years of survival, to silence the voices that built your defense mechanisms. But you can't heal what you keep hiding. You can't grow while pretending you're fine. Real rewiring begins when you stop performing and start being real about what still hurts. There's something powerful about acknowledging your truth. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you free when you say, I've been scared. I've been pretending. I've been doubting. You open the door for transformation to enter, because the moment you confront the lie, it loses its authority. It can't control what you've already exposed. The healing begins in that moment of honesty. That's when your mind starts learning a new rhythm, one grounded in grace, not guilt, in truth, not trauma. You see, rewiring your life isn't just about doing better. It's about believing different. You can't walk in confidence if your mind is still conditioned by shame. You can't speak life over your dreams if your thoughts are still rehearsing old failures. You have to catch those old scripts and replace them with truth. When you hear you'll never make it, respond with, I already have. When you feel unworthy, remind yourself, I am still chosen. When your past tries to whisper your limits, speak your future louder. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You're aligning your thoughts with who you were created to be, not who you've been conditioned to believe you are. You're no longer letting the enemy of your potential rent space in your mind. Every thought you reclaim, every lie you silence, every truth you choose. That's how you rewire your life. That's how you take back the power that was stolen by doubt and shame. You are not broken beyond repair. You are evolving. You are unlearning survival so you can finally live. You're not who you were last year, last month, or even yesterday. And that's the proof that your rewiring has already begun. You're shedding the weight of false identities. You're making room for peace to replace panic, for faith to replace fear, for freedom to replace frustration. It's not easy to let go of the lies because they've kept you company for so long, but they were never meant to protect you. They were meant to keep you small. And you've outgrown small, you've outgrown silence, you've outgrown stories that make you doubt your own light. So today, make a decision. No more repeating what hurt you. No more replaying what broke you. No more believing what belittled you. Stand in your truth, even if your voice shakes, because the moment you decide to release the lies you've been living in, the moment you dare to speak the truth over yourself, that's the moment your rewiring becomes real. That's the moment you remember who you were before the world told you who you couldn't be. There's a difference between surviving and surrendering. Survival teaches you how to keep your head above water. But surrender teaches you how to walk on it. Survival says, I have to do this on my own. Surrender says, I trust there's something greater guiding me. And for some of us, we've been in survival mode for so long that peace feels unfamiliar. We've been fighting battles that were never ours to fight, holding things that were never ours to carry, trying to fix what was only meant to be released. Survival served its purpose. It got you through, but it was never meant to be your permanent address. There comes a point when you get tired of always being strong, of always trying to make everything work, of always holding yourself together with tired hands and a heavy heart. You start realizing that maybe, just maybe, strength isn't found in control. It's found in letting go. And that's the shift. That's the rewiring. Because the moment you surrender, you stop fighting life and start flowing with it. You stop needing to understand every detail and start trusting that there's meaning even in the mystery. We've been taught that surrender means weakness, that giving up control means you've lost. But the truth is, surrender is not giving up. It's giving over. It's saying, I'm tired of carrying this on my own. I'm ready to release it into hands bigger than mine. It's realizing that maybe the reason you've been so exhausted isn't because you're doing too much. It's because you've been doing it alone. Survival will have you waking up every day with your fists clenched, ready to fight. But surrender will have you waking up with open hands, ready to receive. Survival is fear-driven. It whispers, if you let go, you'll lose everything. But surrender is faith-driven. It declares, if I let go, I might finally gain peace. And that's what rewiring your life is about. Trading chaos for calm, control for confidence, exhaustion for ease. Some of you have been praying for peace, but you've been too busy trying to be the provider of it. You're asking for clarity while still trying to write the script. You want freedom, but won't stop fighting to prove your worth. Surrender is not the absence of effort. It's the redirection of it. It's trusting that your best becomes better when it's guided, not forced. It's understanding that what's meant for you won't require you to beg, chase, or break yourself to keep it. There's power in saying, I don't have to know how this ends to believe that it's working for my good. Because control is a counterfeit comfort. It makes you feel safe, but it keeps you stuck. It keeps you replaying the past and predicting the future instead of living in the present. And the present is where transformation happens. The present is where you can finally breathe again, feel again, believe again. When you surrender, you stop carrying every burden like it's your job to save the world. You stop taking responsibility for things you were never meant to fix. You stop fighting battles that drain you because you realize not every fight deserves your energy. You start trusting that even the no's, the delays, and the detours are divine direction. That maybe the door that closed wasn't rejection. It was redirection. That maybe the unanswered prayer wasn't punishment. It was protection. You can't rewrite your story while holding on to the pen of control. Sometimes you have to hand it back to the author and let him write something you couldn't have imagined. Sometimes surrender means resting in what you can't see and believing that it's still working for you. It means saying, I don't understand it right now, but I'm not going to let confusion steal my peace. And yes, surrender is scary. Because letting go of control feels like losing safety. But what if the safety you're clinging to is the very thing keeping you from soaring? What if your need to manage everything is the reason you haven't seen the miracle yet? Sometimes you have to unclench your hands to receive what's next. You can't catch a blessing with closed fists. You can't step into destiny while dragging old disappointments behind you. Surrender doesn't mean you stop showing up. It means you stop striving from fear. You still move, but you move with faith. You still plan, but you plan with peace. You still dream, but you trust that if it's meant for you, it will unfold in divine timing. That's not passivity. That's power. That's maturity. That's rewiring your life from the inside out. The truth is, peace will cost you control, but it will pay you back in clarity, calm, and confidence. When you surrender, you start realizing that life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. Every ending becomes an opening. Every loss becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes direction. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, what's this trying to teach me? And that's when everything begins to shift. You've survived long enough. You've proven your strength. Now it's time to rest in your surrender. To stop running from the unknown and start walking by faith, to stop fighting for what's already yours, because surrender isn't the end of your strength. It's the beginning of your peace. There comes a moment in life when comfort begins to feel like a cage. You've been in the same routine, surrounded by the same people, walking the same roads, repeating the same conversations, and something in your spirit starts whispering, there has to be more than this. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet restlessness that won't go away. That subtle pull that keeps asking, what if I left the familiar behind? See, the truth is, growth doesn't happen in what's comfortable. It happens in what challenges you. It happens when you're willing to step away from what's safe to discover what's sacred. We cling to the familiar because it feels secure. Even if it's not healthy, it's predictable. You know how it works. You know what to expect. But the familiar doesn't always mean fruitful. Sometimes the very thing that's comforting you is also keeping you confined. It's keeping you from evolving. And there's nothing more dangerous to destiny than staying where you no longer belong simply because you're afraid of change. You can't become unstoppable while still tied to what once limited you. You can't step into the new if you refuse to release the old. The things that once fed you might now be starving you. The places that once grew you might now be stunting your growth. And yes, it hurts to walk away from what once felt like home. But sometimes home becomes too small for who you're becoming. There's a reason it feels uncomfortable when you start outgrowing certain spaces. It's not that you've become ungrateful. It's that your spirit recognizes when it's time to expand. You've learned the lessons. You've survived the seasons. And now life is asking you to stretch, to take what you've learned and step into the unknown. But here's the thing. The unknown will never feel safe. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to test your trust, stretch your faith, and show you what's possible when you stop playing small. We often say we want transformation, but we resist transition. Because transition doesn't come with a map. It comes with uncertainty. It comes with moments where you question if you made a mistake. But every time you choose to keep walking despite the discomfort, you're rewriting your story. You're proving to yourself that courage isn't about not feeling fear. It's about moving forward even while fear is whispering in your ear. You have to detach from the familiar to discover the future. That means letting go of identities that no longer fit. It means releasing relationships that keep you anchored to who you used to be. It means trusting that just because something was right for a season doesn't mean it's meant for a lifetime. You're allowed to outgrow people, places, and patterns. You're allowed to step away without explaining your evolution. When you hold on to what's familiar out of fear, you delay what's divine. You can't reach new levels if you're still trying to keep everyone comfortable. You can't say yes to your next if you're still trying to make sense of your past. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is simply walking away, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally realized you deserve to grow. Letting go is a form of obedience. It's trusting that there's something waiting on the other side of that decision. Something that can't show up until you make space for it. And yes, walking away will feel lonely at first. Growth always does. But loneliness is not emptiness. It's space. It's space for clarity, space for healing, space for new connections that align with where you're going, not where you've been. You have to understand that everything connected to your next chapter won't always fit into your current one. Some people will misunderstand your distance. Some doors will close before you're ready. Some opportunities will fall apart right when you thought they were secure. But that's not rejection. That's redirection. That's life pruning you for your purpose. Because anything that's meant to stay will evolve with you, not resist your growth. Don't be afraid to leave the familiar, even if it means walking alone for a while, because sometimes solitude is the sacred space where God shows you who you really are. It's in that silence that you rediscover your strength, your peace, your identity. It's where you remember that you were never meant to blend in, you were meant to break out. And breaking out requires bravery. So if your world feels like it's shifting, if people are falling away, if routines no longer fit, don't panic. That's the sound of growth. That's your spirit saying, yeah, it's time. Don't resist the stretch. Don't cling to what's familiar just because it feels safe. Familiar is the comfort zone, but destiny lives beyond it. There's something waiting for you outside the walls you've built for safety. Something that will remind you why you had to let go. The future is not found in the familiar. The future is found in your faith to step into what's next. Because the truth is you'll never discover what's ahead if you're too afraid to leave what's behind. Pain changes people. It doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up uninvited and rearranges everything you thought you knew about yourself. It takes your breath. It stills your sleep. It humbles your pride. And in the beginning, all you can think about is how to survive it. But what if the goal isn't just to survive the pain? What if the goal is to transform it? Because pain will either make you bitter or it will make you better. And that choice is yours every single time. You don't get to control what hurt you, but you do get to decide what becomes of it. You get to decide whether it's going to bury you or build you. Pain can harden your heart or sharpen your vision. It can turn you into someone closed off and cold, or someone deeper, wiser, and stronger than before. The same fire that burns can also purify. It all depends on what you choose to do with it. We live in a world that teaches us to hide our pain, to smile through it, to act like we've got it all together. But pretending doesn't heal you. Hiding doesn't set you free. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is look your pain in the eye and say, I see you. You came to teach me something. But you can't stay here, because pain is not meant to become your identity. It's meant to become your instruction. You have to stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Because that shift, that single change in perspective turns you from victim to victor. It turns chaos into clarity. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every loss carries a lesson hidden within it. And when you stop running from it, you start to rise from it. There were seasons that broke you, I know. Moments that made you question if you'd ever be the same. Times when you felt unseen, unloved, unwanted. But even in those moments, something inside you refused to quit. That's not weakness. That's divine strength wrapped in human pain. You didn't survive because you had to. You survived because purpose demanded it. There is something inside of you that pain couldn't destroy, and that's what makes you unstoppable. But let's be honest. Turning pain into power doesn't happen overnight. It's not instant, and it's not pretty. It's messy. It's crying at midnight and showing up anyway the next morning. It's forgiving people who don't even feel sorry. It's rebuilding trust in yourself after the world made you doubt your worth. That's what transformation looks like. It's hard, it's holy, and it's worth it. You can't carry old pain into new seasons and expect peace. You have to decide that your healing matters more than your history. You have to choose to release the bitterness, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom. Every time you let go of resentment, you reclaim a piece of your power. Every time you turn pain into purpose, you become less reactive and more resilient. People may look at you now and think they know your story, but they don't know what it took for you to stand here. They don't know the nights you thought you'd never make it. They don't know how many times you had to talk yourself out of giving up. That strength didn't come come from comfort. It came from the fire. You were refined in the very place that tried to break you. And that's why your pain can't define you, because it ended up redefining you instead. There's beauty in realizing that the same things that hurt you once have now become the foundation you stand on. You're wiser because of what you walked through. You're softer in the right places, stronger in the ones that matter. You learn to discern energy, to protect your peace, to value yourself in ways you never did before. Pain was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to deliver you to a deeper version of yourself. So no, you're not broken. You're becoming. You're evolving. You're stepping into your power because you decided not to let what hurt you harden you. You took that pain, and instead of letting it poison you, you turned it into purpose. That's the power of resilience. It's not about never feeling pain. It's about never letting pain make you forget who you are. You owe it to yourself to stop rehearsing the wounds and start reclaiming the wisdom. You owe it to yourself to stop defining your worth by what you lost and start measuring it by what you've learned. You've walked through too much to let bitterness sit where healing belongs. You've cried too many tears to not turn them into something meaningful. The fire that burned you is the same fire that shaped you. And when you finally realize that, nothing can stop you. Because in the end, pain was never your punishment. It was your preparation. There comes a moment in your journey when you realize you've spent too much time waiting for permission to be powerful. You've spent too long asking people to validate what's already been confirmed inside of you. You've been waiting for the right timing, the right opportunity, the right words. But what if the right time is now? What if you've already got everything you need to become who you were meant to be? You've spent years doubting yourself, shrinking yourself, editing yourself to make other people comfortable. And yet, destiny keeps tugging on your sleeve saying, it's time. Becoming unstoppable isn't about never falling. It's about refusing to stay down. It's about waking up one morning and deciding that fear no longer gets to lead your life. You followed fear long enough. You followed doubt, insecurity, comparison, and they've only taken you in circles. But when you finally step into your becoming, you start walking with a new rhythm. You start realizing that the things that used to break you now build you. The things that used to intimidate you now ignite you. There's a quiet power that comes when you finally stop waiting to be chosen, because truthfully, you already were. Every setback, every heartbreak, every detour was a setup for your rise. You didn't go through all that pain just to end up average. You didn't survive all those storms just to settle for smallness. You've got a story that cost you something. Don't you dare silence it because you're scared of being seen. You are not a mistake. You are a movement waiting to happen. Stepping boldly into your becoming means giving yourself permission to evolve without explanation. It means saying, I can be both healing and rising at the same time. It means letting go of the version of you that needed everyone's approval. You don't owe anyone the smaller version of yourself just because they can't handle your growth. The people who are meant to go with you will celebrate your becoming, not compete with it. Sometimes it's not the world holding you back. It's your own hesitation. You keep saying, I'm not ready. But what if the only way to become ready is to start anyway? Courage doesn't show up before the step. It meets you in the step. You have to move while your voice is still shaking. You have to trust that if it's in your spirit, it's not random. It's a calling. And callings don't wait for convenience. The truth is, becoming unstoppable is about alignment, not approval. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You just have to walk in it. When you understand that your value was never up for negotiation, you stop begging for acceptance in places that were never meant to recognize your light. You start realizing that your presence is powerful, even if it makes others uncomfortable. That your voice carries authority even if it trembles. That your purpose still stands even if you've stumbled. Becoming unstoppable means you stop apologizing for your intensity, your vision, your voice. You stop dimming your light to fit into rooms that are too small for your purpose. You stop settling for halfway when you were made for wholly. You start standing in the fullness of who you are, flawed but faithful, imperfect but intentional. Still figuring it out, but still showing up. Because power isn't found in perfection. It's found in persistence. Every version of you that you've been through. The broken one, the brave one, the lost one, the learning one. They all had a purpose. They all carried you to this moment. You are the product of your perseverance. You are the proof that grace can grow from grit. You are the reminder that even when life tried to stop you, you kept showing up. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not your perfection, but your persistence. It's time to stop seeing yourself as becoming and start recognizing that you already are. You are already walking in victory. Even if it doesn't look like it yet, you are already chosen. Even if they overlooked you, you are already powerful. Even if you still feel afraid. The truth is, courage and fear can coexist, but only one gets to make the decision. When you finally step into your becoming, something shifts in your spirit. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop striving and start flowing. You stop trying to earn what you already deserve. You begin to move like someone who knows they are covered, called, and capable. And that's when the world starts to take notice, not because you're louder, but because you're aligned. So take up space. Speak with authority. Walk like the doors were built to open when you arrive. You've been hidden long enough. You've been doubting long enough. You've been preparing long enough. It's time to stand in what you've prayed for. Because this moment, this season, this rise is what you've been becoming all along. And the day you finally believe that, nothing will be able to stop you.